Now, I'm sure that there's a fair amount of people watching right now that know exactly what this new Acura Integra A-Spec is all about and what it's hiding underneath the surface. And I'm willing to bet also that there's a good percentage of people that aren't happy the direction that this vehicle has gone in. But I am here to tell you that after living with this product for a week, I am quite a fan of it. But I couldn't really see myself owning one anytime soon. So let's get cracking with this video today so I can share with you everything that I've learned with my time driving the Acura Integra A-Spec. So to rope you in right off the bat, yes, it is clear that the Acura Integra is underneath the new Honda Civic Si. It has the same powertrain and a lot of familiar components inside. It's a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, taking it to 200 horsepower and 192 pound-feet of torque. It either comes with a continuously variable transmission or a 6-speed manual. So when the new Honda Civic was introduced, I got to test out the sedan version of it and the hatchback version with a manual transmission. And from behind the wheel, a lot of the driving dynamics do feel similar, but it's clear there is quite a power advantage to this tune of the 1.5 litre engine. With this manual transmission, it feels really zippy, happy to get off the line, and if you're banging the first few gears back to back, it will still chirp its tires, I've found, in second and sometimes even third gear. The elements of driving this Integra really are quite lovable. The steering is nice and rich. You've got a good amount of weighting every time that you are pushing it through a corner. With these Continental tires, I actually feel like I can really hurdle this thing around a few corners. The clutch is nice and springy, the brakes feel brilliant, and this manual transmission is just pretty much perfection. No matter what gear you want to go in, wherever you are in the power band, whatever your driving scenario is, whatever you're putting the thought into your mind that you want to go into second, as I'm about to do right now, or I want to jump a gear and go into fourth, it just feels like this transmission is only ever going to go into one gear. It's never going to surprise you and end up somewhere else. This is such a brilliant transmission. I really, really like it. The transmission features an auto rev match feature, which works incredibly well, perfectly smooth. And as I go through some of these corners here, it really does allow me to focus on the steering, how the grip feels on what is a nice, simple back road. The Integra really does feel like a proper sports sedan. It might be front-wheel drive only, and that might turn off some people that are looking for a premium vehicle. But I'll tell you, this is one of the most enjoyable driving experiences I've had in quite some time. The 1.5 litre does also have automatic engine stop-start. So if you come to a stop and you pop the car into neutral, take your foot off of the clutch, the engine will turn off. And I quite like that feature. No matter how fast you think you are of clutching in and putting the car into gear, the engine will always reignite in time. So by the time that you're lifting your foot off of the clutch and applying some throttle, you will be moving forward seamlessly. You might notice some torque steer from time to time, but not enough to upset you. And the 1.5 litre engine itself actually has a nice little burble to it. It will occasionally do some sputters of exhaust, but it certainly doesn't have that built-in obnoxiousness that a fair few 2-litre turbo engines have on the market today. Spooling up and offloading the turbo is the most prominent noise you'll hear from the engine bay and from the exhaust, but the most disappointing thing about being behind the wheel in this Acura for me is that the road noise really is not what you should expect out of a premium product and out of this price point. The two Hondas Civics that I tested out before were the touring trims, and both of those had additional sound deadening material, carpeting that was put underneath the engine bay and the cabin to help reduce road noise. And I'm fairly convinced that this Integra does not have it. It is very loud on the highway and really quite taxing. And that is something that I was quite astounded to find in my time in this product. If the Civics are getting this sound deadening material added in on the top trim, that should be the base, the minimum to the Integra, and then add on top of that further. Let's talk about some other things that separate the Integra from the Civic, because if you were to never look at the interior of the new Civic, you would actually think that this is a bespoke interior, but it is clear that the skeleton is the same and some of the flesh has been altered in the cabin of the Integra. I do like how there has been efforts though. You have a different facade across the air vents. There's a little bit of a different molding for the dashboard, and the door cards up front are slightly different, mostly to house the 16-speaker ELS sound system that we have in this top trim A-Spec. But most prominent to the eye is the red leatherette seats with micro suede up front. Acura didn't go for the suede in the rear seats, which some might find disappointing, but really, how many people are you ever putting in the back seat of a compact premium sedan such as this? Saying that, at 6'4", I can't really sit behind myself all that well. My head is bashing into the roofline quite substantially, so leaning into the center. I'm sure I could manage a short jaunt in this product, but certainly not for hours and hours on end. The seats may lack some breathability here in the summertime, but I think they're quite comfortable, even though I don't have the most amount of thigh room, and the overall foot space and where I rest my knees here in the Integra feels perfectly accommodable for the 99th percentiles such as myself. From the exterior design, I think Acura has been quite successful to hide the Civic roots in this Integra. Namely, this Integra is a fastback design. I'm really happy to see that here. You've got a deep boot, you've got a security cover if you need to keep some belongings hidden, and it doesn't really impede visibility all that much. But with that different roof line, it creates a different shape to the side profile, these different creases that lead up into the glass and down alongside the doors. So from the outside, the Acura Integra, I think, is a pretty good looking product. You do hide quite a lot of the design with this black paint, which is a shame, but I do need to note that you'll see there's carbon fiber accoutrements on this product. It's a factory option here on the wing mirrors and on the boot lid, and even though it looks fine and it's genuine carbon fiber, it is pricey at $4,500 Canadian dollars. Maybe it's a bit too much money for some visual upticks. It really doesn't do it for me, but maybe it would do it for you. Now, as I've mentioned price, it is now time to talk about the fatal flaw for this product for me. And that's that for the practical-minded individual, no matter who you are, I think you will eventually find a good enough reason to spend a little more money to get a little bit nicer of a product. And from the Civic Si to go into the Integra, from the base version, there really isn't all that much for you to step up. And to get the mechanically equivalent Integra to the Honda Si, you have to have this trim, which is the top spec trim, which comes with the 16-speaker sound system, the micro suede seats, and the adaptive dampers. And that price difference, excluding the carbon fiber, this vehicle is about $10,000 more than the Civic Si. And 10 is quite a bit more than a few, and as much as I love this sound system, and I actually think the seats are pretty good for a tall person like me, I know I couldn't wrestle with the fact that this is so much more money for a handful of features that are reserved for the most expensive version. Maybe in a few years' time, depreciation would hit this version of the Integra quite negatively, but could be a positive to that second or third owner. It's the kind of product that I know I would be considering if it really was the same price as a Civic Si in 4 or 5 years' time. But we can't think about the future value of a product. We've got to be thinking of the here and now. You're going into a dealership to buy one. There is no second-hand market for this generation of Integra just yet. So how can I leave this other than I don't think it's reasonably priced. It doesn't offer enough for a lot of people, and for the features that you really want, you have to cough up the most amount of money and make the least logical choice to go get those features. So even though behind the wheel right now, I like driving it and I see a little bit of a twisty road coming up and I'm looking forward to attacking it with this car, I can see myself walking into an Acura dealership instead of a Honda dealership to own what is pretty much the same car underneath. So I hope I was able to provide some value to you today in this video. I know that when it comes to the new Integra, it's maybe upset some of the previous fans that were looking for a two-door coupe and something like that, and maybe that would make a little more sense for the nameplate and the additional price, as Honda is no longer making a Civic coupe. But for the product we have now and the price tag that Honda is attaching to this product, I can't in good conscience recommend it to everyone, but I still think you should take a look at the new Integra to see what you think. So thank you very much for taking the time to watching this video. I do hope it provided some good, and I hope to see you again on the channel soon.